Take a look at the Sahara. Endless, shifting dunes rolling out under a blistering light. It is an ocean of sand, completely indifferent to the life trying to survive inside it. Somewhere in that expanse, a single acacia seed detaches from its parent branch. It tumbles downwards through the scorching desert air, and finally lands in an environment that is practically designed to destroy it. By noon, the sand surrounding this tiny shell reaches 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat presses down like a physical weight, pulling moisture from anything exposed to the surface. Inside that shell, a tiny embryo is prepared to grow. Thousands of years of genetics urge it to split open and send out a root. But if it gives in to that instinct and sprouts without an immediate water source, it will wither and die within hours. To understand how it survives, look at its armor. This diagram shows a cross-section of the resting seed. Notice how the thick outer coat blocks the extreme external heat, keeping the fragile embryo perfectly dormant. It maintains this state through molecular endurance. In a landscape this hostile, survival begins with a specific type of biological discipline, the active restraint of its own growth. 43 days in, the vibration of a passing scorpion threatens to unearth the seed from its precarious spot. Then a 3-month drought sets in. Aggressive winds whip constantly across the dunes, burying the tiny seed deeper. It pushes it further away from the sunlight it will eventually need, but provides a crucial layer of cooling insulation. In June, a brief, violent rainstorm drops water over the sand for exactly 4 minutes. The moisture is intoxicating, but the seed holds firm. It cannot break its cocoon for a supply of water that will evaporate by afternoon. 8 months pass. The seed's protective coat expands and contracts as the environment swings from daytime boiling to near freezing every single night. Time in the desert acts as an absolute filter. It eliminates any organism that acts on impulse, leaving only those capable of perfectly calculated timing. Finally, in January, the weather shifts. Heavy storm clouds roll in and release 3 continuous days of persistent, soaking moisture that fully penetrates the deep layers of the dry earth. The embryo receives the signal. Germination triggers at the cellular level. The armored shell cracks open, and a fragile white root drives downward with conviction. At the same time, a pale green shoot begins moving upward. For something the size of an eyelash, pushing against the weight of wet sand is an exhausting physical struggle. Millimeter by millimeter, it breaks the surface. But the real work happens out of sight. In this vertical cross-section, while the plant remains a tiny sapling, it sends a massive taproot deep underground for water. Once secured, the trunk thickens into rough bark, sprouting savage thorns to deter predators. To survive this breakout phase, the plant has to physically adopt the same harsh defensive traits as the environment trying to kill it. 20 years after that long fall, the seed stands on the dune as a fully grown, gnarled acacia tree. By securing its own survival, this single organism has altered the space around it. It is a localized oasis, providing critical shade, moisture, and shelter to an entire ecosystem of birds and small mammals. In the spring, the harsh, thorny branches bear delicate yellow flowers. It is an act of quiet defiance against a dead landscape. Eventually, those flowers turn into hardened seeds. They detach, catch the scorching wind, and scatter across the dunes to repeat the cycle. This tree represents a calculated biological victory. Its presence is the final result of thousands of days spent measuring heat, moisture, and its own remaining internal fuel. The acacia's journey suggests that in the Sahara, life is a victory of endurance and timing. This tree stands here because it spent years holding its life promise in reserve, waiting for the one moment it knew exactly when to wake up.